Hello, my name is Bill Clayton. I work with Keenan and Associates. I work with the I Am Ready division. We do emergency management training and that sort of thing. This is the third in our series at Long Beach for safety training. We did a surviving an active assailant training. We did the fire safety training, and this one's the earthquake safety training. These will all be available after we record them on the campus safety webpage. They're available there. So this is going to go ahead and get started here. And I think the way I usually start this, of course, it's going to be hard for you to interact with me. We will be answering questions at the end of this recording. But the question I usually ask is just think for a moment of earthquakes that you've experienced. I know some of you probably native Californians, native Southern Californians, so you've experienced quite a few of them. But just think for a moment to that moment in time, whether it was in night, morning, driving, wherever it might have been, that you experienced a Southern California earthquake. And I'll just give you a few seconds to think about that. Now, typically, when I ask this question, especially in Southern California, I get about a 98% response rate of people that have experienced those earthquakes. And they usually remember exactly where they were and what they thought and what they felt and all of those things, which is really quite interesting because they're so, I guess, sudden. You don't have any kind of buildup or any warning to them. They just strike. And then you have those memories going back. And I've been in Southern California for quite a while. I have an emergency management background, former military and law enforcement, but as well, I've done quite a bit of emergency management. So what I want to do today is just cover some basics of earthquakes. This is really the science part of earthquakes. We're not going to cover a lot. I'm not going to get into geology very much or seismology. What we're really going to look at is what happens when we have an earthquake. That will be the first portion, not very long. And then we're going to get into just understanding what do we do if we have an earthquake? What is the best practice we have today? What is recommended for us to do in an earthquake, both before, during, and then after. A little earthquake science, and I think you can just see here on the chart is this is the typical or normal, what we call a dip slip fault. And on when we have this type of an event, you can see on the slide, I'm going to circle it here with my pen a little bit. That's the epicenter. That's where the actual rub or friction is occurring. We have a hypocenter, and then you can see the fault plane. What happens when this slips just very little is there's a shock wave that's sent throughout the region where this plate is, and we feel the earthquake. That's what we're feeling. We're feeling that slippage of the earth. This is just a pie slice of earth of what we know so far anyway, of what the earth looks like. And we have a very solid core at the very center of the earth. And then there's a liquid layer at that part. That's part of the core. And then as it cools down, it gets more toward the surface. We have the mantle area. Earthquakes. Tornadoes. Sorry, not tornadoes. I'm getting echo. So we get. I apologize. We're getting some echo here. Okay, there we go. I think we got it fixed. The echo is distracting me. We really don't get tornadoes from the mantle. What we get is that's where volcanic activity happens up in through the crust where it breaks. And we can even have earthquakes that occur when we have volcanic activity, because that's all happening inside the earth. So that's what it looks like. And most of what we have for earthquakes, it's happening right at the crust or the plates. And here's just a picture of plates. of the earth laid out flat for us to look at. And you can see there's a large number of them. And I'm just again going to draw right here. North America is right up in here, the US. And I guess it's not really drawing very well right now for me, but if you looked in the area about the very center of that page, there's 5 plates that occur. And those are all right in Southern California, around the coast, Long Beach, Los Angeles, some of those coastal areas. That's all right where those plates are the most active. That's where they would strike and slip. This is a USGS hazard assessment, and no hazard is the white area. So if you look on the map up in the central northern part of the United States and then parts of Texas, most of Florida, they do not have earthquake activity there because that's not where the plates are acting. And then as you get up the scale a little bit, you see the blue areas, light green, dark green. It's getting more violent. The yellow areas, much more hazardous areas. And if you again look at the Southern California section on there, that's the dark red orange area. So hazard wise, we in the United States are of a couple different areas most likely to have an earthquake.
Thursday, November 13th, 2008. It's a sunny morning in Southern California. Across the region, 7.5 million people are busy at work. Several 100,000 of them are commuting to jobs in different counties, far from where they live. Over 200,000 commuters work and reside on opposite sides of the San Andreas Fault. Today, these families and many others across the region will be separated. 1,800 people will die. 53,000 people will be injured. And $213 billion in damage will occur. It's 10 a.m. The largest earthquake to hit Southern California in modern times has just begun. Some people react appropriately, others don't. In the intense shaking, nearly 1,500 buildings collapse. Infrastructure is severely compromised, and 300,000 buildings suffer significant damage. The rupture travels 200 miles northwest along the San Andreas Fault. Violent shaking lasting as long as 2 minutes in some areas. Finally, the earthquake is over. Many of the lifelines of Southern California have been disrupted. A large number of people are trapped in collapsed buildings. Over 1,600 fires start, some turning into super conflagrations. Millions of people are trying to use their phones, causing the system to become overloaded. In the months ahead, there will be tens of thousands of aftershocks. Residents will struggle to recover from the earthquake. There will be no water for weeks or months, and no electricity. Traveling from point to point within the city will be extremely difficult, and 255,000 people will be displaced from their homes. We are all in this together. We will suffer the consequences if we don't do our part right now. How quickly life gets back to normal after this disaster is up to you and those around you. Your level of personal preparedness will determine your quality of life after the quake. It's a good idea to have a fire extinguisher, a first aid kit, and enough water for each person in your household to have at least 1 gallon of water a day for 3 days. Have an emergency plan. Decide now where you will meet your family after an earthquake. Make sure there's a person out of town you can contact to let your loved ones know that you're okay. Homeowners should be sure to bolt their house to its foundation. Consider whether earthquake insurance makes sense for you as part of your financial plan. Even if you're not a homeowner, you can secure your personal possessions against earthquake damage. Preparedness is not only for the home but also for business. Be sure that your company has emergency plans for a major earthquake. Empower yourself and your family. Be prepared. For more information, visit www.usgs.gov/shakeout.
Well, as you can see from that, and I apologize for the reverb sound that we were getting there. As you can see from that, that was 2008. Just add to the amount of cost it's going to be, add to the population, adjust for that. The damage is still going to be similar. The things that we're going to see should we have that type of an earthquake. I like this video, even though it's a little bit old, because it really is hitting on some of the key areas that we can help mitigate our potential for injury and damage just by being smart and thinking. So when an earthquake occurs, and I know this is kind of a little bit of makes you feel nervous when you hear about it, but the thing that we should do is drop to the floor during an earthquake. If you can get under something sturdy, get under something sturdy. You want to cover your neck, especially. Make yourself as small as possible. Hold on to something if you can. Otherwise, just stay in that cocoon position and just try to protect your head and your neck, especially. In buildings, in colleges and schools, sometimes we use that drop-in ceiling design with the spline ceiling. While the ceiling may not come down, some of those tiles may jump and may fall on you. Yes, okay, they look nice and soft and everything, but they're fairly heavy. They may hurt you, but they won't kill you, especially if you're protecting your neck and your head when those things fall. And that can happen whether you're at work, at home, at a shopping center, movie theater, wherever you are. There's no really advanced warning that we're going to have an earthquake enough that you could prepare and get a bunch of stuff ready. It's just going to happen. That's the way it's going to be. What you might do right now, wherever you are, just take a look around you. Do you have bookshelves? Do you have odds and ends on the bookshelves? Do you have pictures hanging on the wall? What do you have? Do you have chandelier lights? What kind of lighting do you have wherever you're at right now? And look around at those things from a different perspective than you normally would look. I'd like you to take a look at those as though those were something that were going to fall or get thrown at you. And how would that feel if those objects dropped on you or thrown at you? And it just makes a lot of sense to check and make sure they're securely fastened, make sure bookshelves have been appropriately fastened to the walls. Make sure if there's heavy objects up high, move those down low. We don't need heavy things up high. And then they have less distance to fall or travel. Those are just good things that you want to do right where you are right at this moment. There's the possibility that during an earthquake, as you saw in this, that we're going to have fires with possible likelihood of losing electrical power. As you saw in that movie, some of the phones they showed in there were the old landline style phones, and I don't know how many of us still have those. If you have a landline phone, it's likely not going to work at all because of power outages, because of severed phone lines and that type of thing. If you have a cell phone, it's unlikely that you'll make a connection because everything is going to be so busy and some towers will be down that it'll be just, you won't be able to get through. The most likely communication you'll be able to make is a text message because when everything else goes down because of the transmission rate for texting, it's much more likely to go through, but that's no guarantee either. Also, if you are along the coast, the Pacific Coast campus is about 25 feet above sea level. The main campus is 52 feet above sea level. There is a potential, they're not in the tsunami warning zone, but there is a potential for tsunami. So keep that in mind. If that's a warning that's given, don't take that lightly. Follow advice and get to higher areas. So again, I'm just going to go over this. There's other people, there's some folks that have put out different types of things that you can do during an earthquake when it's happening. In California, the very best practice is drop, cover, and hold on, just like you see in this picture. On both of the campuses, every major room has a emergency preparedness type of a plaque or sign poster. And I think like number 5 or number 6 on the 6 or 7 on the anyway. This will now cause you to go look at those signs. There actually is a place for what do you do during an earthquake, and it does say drop, cover, and hold on. So again, that's best practice for what we do. We do get a lot of questions. We get questions on should I have some kind of an emergency kit in my car? I really highly recommend. I have in my truck all the time with me. I have what I call a go bag, and I have in there 3 days supply of emergency type food. It's the kind of food you would never in your life want to eat unless you were desperate. I'll give that to you. It's not great tasting stuff, but it's enough protein and energy in it to help you survive. You could probably even share and last 5 or 6 days on it because of the number of calories in those bars. I also carry a whole case of water, which I cycle through. I'll drink it as I go, and then I restock that case of water in my car, because you should have, as you saw in the video, a gallon of water per person per day. So in your household, if you're a house of 4, you need to have enough water. I don't know the amount because animal sizes are different. So if you have dogs and cats, you for sure need to make sure you have water for them. If you're really thinking through this, you want to make sure that's covered as well for those pets. So those, you want to have something like that in your car at all times, wherever you are. Even when you go on a road trip, you want to have that kind of stuff with you. And there's those type of kits are available at some of the discount stores. Just make sure that the expiration date has not passed already, and then check those on a regular basis. Put it in your calendar. Say, check my emergency kit. You also would like to, probably should have a family member or close friend, relative, something out of state, like maybe 3 or 4 states away if possible, but somebody in another state that you can reach out to, and have family members, if they're separated, reach out and be able to get reconnected with your family through that means, because you're not going to be able to make local calls, most likely. Also, just because there's the possibility of electrical power going out, there's lots of solar style generators and little small solar powered battery backup type things that you can use for recharging your cell phone and then sticking it in the sun and getting it charged again to keep using it. So these are all things that you really should have. You want to consider these types of things. Sometimes we'll get the question, well, if, let's say, for example, what do I do if a neighbor comes over? What do I do if somebody else I know doesn't have these things? Then maybe you ought to consider increase the amount of supplies you want, having enough, because I know there's going to be people out there that are not adequately supplied. They're going to be desperate. There's going to be, we talk about the homeless that we have right now. That number is going to be exponentially added to from people that had homes up until the earthquake, and then those homes are destroyed and they can't move back into them. We're going to shift gears a little bit and just talk about the Building Emergency Coordinator, or the BEC. And some of you may have volunteered to be in your building, be a BEC for your building. And I'll talk a little bit about what those folks do. But they will be a liaison between the Emergency Operations Center at the college or the EOC and the building during an emergency. They'll evaluate specific building emergency type things and notify the operations section or call 911 for assistance. They'll assist with the communication of campus emergencies to building occupants and coordinate the proper response depending on what's going on, whether we evacuate, stay in place, or do a lockdown. And then they'll assist in communicating the all clear in the event of a localized evacuation. Now, here's the question. Just as you always want to be careful who you're listening to and who has the appropriate authority for calling certain things, in the case of an earthquake, typically either fire or law enforcement for other emergencies are going to be called in to say, okay, is it safe to go back in the buildings? We at the college do not have the expertise in that area, just like, probably 90% of businesses and other educational institutions, the four-year colleges don't have that expertise. So before anybody goes back in a building, we need some kind of an all clear, and that comes from somebody with an architectural or engineering background that knows whether it's safe to go back in those buildings. If you, for some reason, left valuables in a building following an earthquake, you do not go back in to get those. You just leave them there. It's not worth it for you to go back in. Following an earthquake, for example, if it's called for an evacuation, you want to make sure that you're being careful when you go outside the building. If there's Spanish tiles on the roof or something else that may have come loose, you want to be careful you don't get hit by something like that. Watch out for power lines, just several different things that you need to be aware of and be careful of. This next page also covers some of those responsibilities of the building emergency coordinators. They'll assist in the evacuation. They'll lead and assemble staff and students at the pre-designated evacuation areas. And they'll be checking and going through the buildings. In the larger buildings on both campuses, there may be 2 or 3 or 4. I don't know. It just depends on the size of the building. They'll need enough to do that. Now, if you would like to be a BEC and you're not one yet, and any updates to that, you can go to the safety website or let Bob Raposa know that you're interested in being a BEC, and he'll take care of you. He'll get you hooked up with that. Make sure when you're leaving a building following an earthquake, close all the big doors. Don't prop a door open. Now, if you're having trouble moving a door, it may be because the jamb has been jarred during an earthquake. Don't force it. We don't want something falling on you. But in cases where doors can be closed, make sure that those can be closed because that's part of our fire protection. And again, we may have fires following an earthquake. We just don't know. Also, you'll want to, so this is BEC. They'll serve as a point of contact for supervisors, department heads, and staff accountability. And then finally, they'll notify supervisors and staff about the return to the building after they've been given that all clear from the appropriate government authority. This is the liberal arts campus, the main campus. And then here is the Pacific Coast campus assembly areas. You can get these also on the safety webpage. Off the main district page, you should see a triangle with an upside down exclamation point in the center of that page. You can click on that and you can find the appropriate map for your campus. We have hard copies of that as well. We have hard copies of that as well. You can reach out and get those from the safety folks. And that really wraps it up. Now, what I want to do is I wanted to give time for questions because these are important. And so if you can put those questions into the chat box, I think that's what we're using. And I have somebody here that will ask me the question, and then I'll just provide the answer to you if I can. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you right now, we'll find it for you and get it back to the website.
Recording stopped.